Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 4 of the Inferno 403 podcast. Guys, I'm a little nervous today. Be the first time that I've ever been this nervous. With moderating podcasts, I've done so many, but I kind of screwed up this whole countdown thing moving in. This is my third try, and the reason why is because I have somebody at the meeting for the first time that I've been reading every blog, everything that he does since I was about 25, 24, no, actually no, 29 years old, and I'm 44 now. We have the godfather of Flames blog, Mr. Kent Wilson, here today. How you doing today, Kent?
Good, but now I'm nervous because that's quite the introduction. So,
well, you deserve it, man. I mean, I really, back then when I first started reading, so you're the OG of analytics in this town. You really are. And back then when I was reading it, I found it intriguing, but I didn't know. I had no idea what was going on, right? Like, everything that charts, everything that you were saying, it really confused me. But as we went on, I realized that you're actually, one of the smartest hockey people in the city of Calgary. Quick question for you before. You're very welcome. Quick question for you before I introduce everybody else that's on this program today. Has Murray Edwards ever contacted you and said?
No, I've never talked to Murray Edwards, not at all. So as you can imagine, I have talked to some people in the league, and of course I've worked with people who went on to work in the league. So there has been some of those sort of backdoor discussions sometimes, but you know what? I'm happy just doing what I do now.
And this is part of the reason why we think that ownership needs to move. We really think that Murray Edwards maybe needs to go now, and this is part of the reason. So in saying that, before we move on to our interview with you today, Kent, I would like to introduce all my co-hosts, and we do have a new co-host joining us today. If you see that pretty little lady on your screen, that is Michaela Burrs. Michaela, how are you doing? Are you happy to join the Inferno 403 podcast, the most dangerous and diverse podcast in all of hockey podcast circles?
Well, when you put it like that, how can you not be excited to join, Lube? Super excited to join you guys and be ready for this 4th episode with Kent. A little bit about myself is I just completed my 4th year of broadcast media studies at MRU, currently completing my student work term with CSEC, and everyone there has been so incredible, and proud Calgarian, excited to talk Flames with all you guys.
Excellent, and she's also a part of the Blasty cast, and she put the next man in his place. Actually, my brother from another mother, and sometimes he gets a little bit crazy. Sometimes he's unprepared. Sometimes he's unprofessional. But today he got a haircut. He's got notes. He told me this morning. He's like, "Wow, I listened to the Blasty cast last night, and Michaela's gonna." Yeah, she's gonna outshine me. So I gotta get my shit together, so to speak. Of course, we have Pranil Prasad here today.
How's it going? Super excited to work with talk with Kent. We're super excited to have you on the show. Like Luke said, someone that knows analytics, something that the Flames organization needs more of. So we're super pumped to have you.
And we also have the Blast. Speaking of the Blasticast, right? This is a perfect segue. The guy who created Blasticast, the guy who helped Popo bring back, probably gave Ryan Popovich the idea to bring Blasty back. I'm kind of upset at that, obviously, because we didn't make the play. I mean, we're going back to the Young Guns days, but of course, we have the ever hardworking and talented Mr. Noah Adler here as well today.
Good to see you too, Lube. And Kent, I follow you on Twitter, and I see that you follow me as well. I'm pretty darn excited to be talking with you here today about a couple of things, and appreciate you can make the time to come on Inferno with us.
Yeah, of course.
And then the guy, he calls himself handsome, of course, but I've never heard anybody else call him handsome. Except for recently. Recently, Chris, I'll tell you one thing. There's one girl who told me that she thought you were very handsome. I'm not going to introduce you to her, though, because that would be it. So we have Chris should be here today.
Pleasure to be here. Super excited for this interview with Kent. A little bit nervous. I don't know too much about analytics, so I'm hoping to learn something here.
All right.
I'm pretty ready for this, though.
All right. Sounds good.
And last but not least, we have the producer of our show. I'm lucky nowadays because everybody likes to call me old man in all these in the podcast circles. I think that I feel pretty good because with his attitude recently towards me and towards everybody else, he's been extra grumpy. So he's actually the old man now. We have Mr. Jason Bizek.
Well, I may be older, but I'm still much better looking than you, Vi. Yeah, I'm super pumped to talk to Kent today. I follow Kent on Twitter with both my accounts. Sad to say he doesn't follow me yet, but I'm sure that'll change after this. And yeah, it's going to be nice to hear somebody talk about something other than Johnny Gaudreau leaving town. Going to be good to hear some actual numbers and stats and stuff instead of hearsay.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of that, so no worries there.
Good.
So let's lead into the questions that the crew have for you. And it's we talk about hearsay, right? Like we as Kent had just mentioned, the king of hearsay around this joint is usually Pranil Prasad. He'll message me. He'll be like, I heard a rumor, Lube. I don't know if this is true or not. But it might just be hearsay. So kind of a perfect segue to get to Pranil first and have him ask his questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Thanks for joining us. It's nice to have someone that actually knows what they're talking about, unlike the old man of the cast here. But,
Jason, right?
But that's another story. But my first thing is the draft is coming up here soon. The Flames are picking 12th. Who do you think the Flames should pick with that pick? And do you think they're gonna move up or trade down?
Well, if they keep the pick, this is a really tough year just because of the circumstances that happened. You know, a lot of guys didn't play much, and if they did, they played in different leagues. So this is going to be a wacky draft. Like someone who goes first overall is probably not going to be the best player in the draft, and someone who goes 25th might end up being the guy. So I've narrowed it down to a couple options. I like Lucius. I like Sillinger. McTavish looks like a good player. Lysell looks like a good player. There's a lot of guys kind of crowded in that 12th spot. I think they may try to trade the pick for an Eichel or sort of move. And if that fails, they may do the trade down too, because as I said, from 12 to 25, there's probably 5 to 10 guys you can pick and be comfortable with.
Perfect. And starting a trade rumor here that's been a long topic here. Bringing Jack Eichel, a number one center. I mean, I'm sure Flames fans would love that. My next question would be, the biggest move in the offseason was having Daryl Sutter come back. It was a nice start, then it was a middle of the pack. The Flames really played horrible, but at the end, they started winning some more games. What are your thoughts on Daryl Sutter, and what do you think he's going to bring to the team next year?
Well, Sutter's always been a great coach. I mean, he left because his GMing sort of career didn't do too well here, but he's always been a coach who was able to extract a lot from his team. They always have good possession numbers. They always give chance numbers. I mean, I think they're trying to get the last that they can out of the Gaudreau era here before he leaves or Monahan leaves, and they have to start making changes. So it makes sense. I mean, they're going to go for it the next 2 years, I think.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll pass it to Luke, back to Luke, and who's next?
We talk about maybe getting the last out of the Gaudreau and Monahan era, obviously, because I mean the way that the contracts were structured, with both of them being UFAs at the end of the year, but next year, I'm sorry, Kachuk being the same, and as an RFA, and I think Giordano is also the same, right? So you got those four. Would you agree with me anyway that there won't be too many changes in the offseason because I think even with the coaching change with bringing in Daryl, I think Brad had that was his window, right? Like that was the window that he thought of for this group. Would you say that would you agree that maybe the Flames, his Flames fans are looking for changes, but I've been telling everybody to kind of temper their expectations. Would you agree that maybe they're just going to try again, maybe adding another free agent, maybe a Kyle Palmieri or something like that, and just kind of tinkering with that as that side of the team before they actually make moves?
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that they should actually start the rebuild sooner rather than later. But everything that the franchise has done just points to them just trying to keep going, do the Montreal or New York Islanders thing, get in and see what happens. They still have some pretty good players. They have a good coach, so I'm sure they're confident. In the next 2 years, they can still kind of push for it with RFA signing, UFA signings. I think they'll try to lose at least one major contract this summer. So if it's a Giordano or Monahan, just to give them, because they're really capped out otherwise. But aside from that, I don't see any major changes happening.
Okay. Jason, you have some questions for Kent?
Yeah. So Kent, you're a big analytics guy, as I've seen in a lot of your posts on Twitter. So I have 2 analytics questions for you.
Okay.
In your mind, what is the most important analytic or stat that's the most telling of a player?
I don't know if there's one you can point to. It's just sort of a constellation of things that you look at and you put it all together. So I'd say the one thing people should pay attention to, and most of the analytics guys these days will cringe, is PDO. And it's not even a real stat, it's just a heuristic. And PDO is literally just the combination of on ice and shooting percentage and save percentage. And we've just noticed over the years that number tends to regress towards 100, which is the mean in the NHL. So if you see players way over that number or way under that number, you can usually confidently see that the results are going to change for them over time. And that's, if you're a gambler or if you're in fantasy sports and stuff, just knowing that one number and knowing that it regresses to the mean is really useful. So, but there's a lot. Corsi was the original one. We've moved into more advanced sort of models which isolate players, expected goals for, stuff like that. So that's the new stuff, and a lot of it I take together. I almost never look at just one number.
And what is an analytic or a stat that has shocked you the most, or that has come across as the most shocking to other people, that sticks out in your mind, like a past analytic or stat of a player? Something crazy.
Yeah, it's trying to think now, but the wars used to be waged back in the day over players like Michael Backlund. So I was an early defender of Backlund when he was young, because he had great underlying numbers, but nobody ever really saw it because he didn't have the eye-popping offense. So it was I actually hand tracked Flames games for years, and then I had a big macro on Excel where I could input players and see how they played with other guys in terms of scoring chances. And I noticed that everyone who played with Backlund had better scoring chance rates than away from him. So that was sort of really early days, and that's why people still know me as the Backlund defender.
I have to agree with you as well. Backlund has always been one of my favorites since he's joined the Flames, and it's hard to tell when players aren't performing on the ice, but they do other things as well, and a lot more people I think need to see that. So yeah, kick it back to Lube.
I think Pat Steinberg defers to you a lot, Kent, because with the Backlund love and everything, and I know that you've been on the Fan 960, and you guys are both big Backlund supporters, as am I.
Well, I actually have a funny story about that, if you'll indulge me. So back when I took over Flames Nation in 2009, Pat joined us as well. So a lot of my readers sort of came with me, and then he wrote something, I believe, on Damon Langkow, and it was not very positive, and he just got roasted in the comments. And he came to me afterwards, because I was the editor, and said, "What is going on here?" And I said, I started educating him on sort of the background of what they were talking about, and that was kind of the start of his journey into analytics as well.
Yeah, he's actually well, obviously, I mean, when I say that you're the Godfather, you truly are, because you've inspired so many, like a guy like Pat, and Pinder. Obviously, Pinder is just incredible with his knowledge on analytics as well. And we'll have him on the show next week for episode 5. come join us. I guess we're doing it live. We're gonna drink and everything and have a camera crew. So you're welcome to join, Kent, and argue with
Yeah,
Binder
just
a
let
little
me
bit.
know when. Okay.
Oh, awesome. Speaking of Steinberg, the guy that I noticed that agrees with Pat Steinberg the most on our program is the guy who also, created the Blasty Cast. So Noah, what are your questions here for Ken?
So you and I both follow each other on Twitter, and we've chatted on replies about whether or not the Flames should go into rebuild. And you and I are both in the same belief that they should. But we also know that that's not going to happen because knowing ownership and that kind of stuff. But I mean, again, I won't get into how I feel about Murray Edwards on this program for the millionth time. But anyway, but let me put you in the shoes, though, of either ownership or the general manager. If you are in charge and you started to rebuild for the Calgary Flames right now, what would your first move be?
I would put almost anyone who's over 25 kind of on the auction block and see what the market was for them. Now, obviously, you still have to ice a team. There's still a cap floor, so you can't go out and just sell everyone. But the Flames are kind of facing an existential crisis here over the next 2 years. If it doesn't work out with Gaudreau, he'll be gone. I don't know how long Tkachuk actually wants to stick around, especially if the team isn't competitive. He might force their hand. Giordano's going to age out. He's still very functional, but how much longer is he going to be? Backlund's going to age out. I think Monahan is kind of on a steep decline anyways. And there isn't much coming up behind them. Zari, Peltier, Phillips, Valimaki. I mean, those are good players, but there's no superstars. There's no blue chip prospects at all. And when you look at who's coming up in the next couple drafts, like Shane Wright and all these generational talents, I mean, it makes sense to start looking to the future now, I think.
Well, and the other thing I'll mention too is that you've literally been essentially with the same group for the last 7 years, and you've seen that it just has not worked. And it's time to start over, and it's time for a fresh new start, and even a fresh new voice as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I'll pass it back along to Luber.
Fresh new voice is a perfect segue into the freshest voice of the Infernal 403 podcast. Michaela, what are your questions for Ken?
Before I get into my questions, Ken, I'm going to be giving you a call in early October to help me with my fantasy team because I had a pretty dismal season this past year.
Okay. That's good.
But anyways, I was going through some of your previous tweets, and you mentioned that your dad, who is passionate about hockey, isn't watching the NHL anymore due to poor officiating and coaching, whether that be collapsed defenses, block shots, not protecting your star players, etc. Looking at the game as it is now, where do you project the future of this game going? And if you could make any changes to the game as it is, what would those be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I brought that up with my dad because you see a lot of sort of conventional old timers who defend the way the game is officiated now, and they actually wish it was more was let go. But he's 74, and he played literally ice hockey on cold rinks when he was a kid in Saskatchewan, and he coached hockey all the way through. And he just says it's boring. I may record a game and zip through it, and half the time I don't stop. It's just the skill and the officiating kind of works against the high level talent we have. I mean, it's never been more talented. We have incredible players in the game right now. And if they could just play a little bit more, have a little bit more freedom to score, I think it would be a great way forward. So in terms of changing, I think the officiating would be top of my list. I think NHL officiating is terrible. I have for years. I actually had to force myself to stop talking about it this year because I'll just bore people because it's the same thing over and over again. I'm sure there's reasons for it beyond just the culture. It's a fast game. They don't ever want to make errors of commission on the ice. They don't want to be part of it. But in the end, they need a new standard. They need to call the rules as they're written, and they need the players to adapt, and they need the talent to be the reason people come to the rink.
And while I've brought up your dad here, I would love to hear your best memory of or with him, best hockey memory.
Yeah, it's boy, there's lots of years because he coached me through a lot of my stuff. He coached my brother. He ran entire hockey schools during the summer. One year we were in the finals. We were losing 2-1 at the end of, I think, the first period, and I came out of the corner and scored the tying goal. And he just kind of approached me because we actually had an intermission, so we got to go to the dressing room. And he didn't say anything. He just kind of kicked me in the shin pad and smiled. So I don't think I'll ever forget that. We actually won the game too.
Well, there you go. Perfect. Thanks for sharing. And I'll pass it back to Lou.
Sure thing.
Mr. Shamin, you are next.
All right, thanks, Lube. So as we talked about, you're a writer for the Flames Nation and The Athletic. My question for you is, what's something that helped you grow into that role, and what's like the most important thing that helped you, that you took away from that role and helped you with your career?
Well, I grew into it gradually, like a lot of people in the old blogging days. So I had my own blog. I started writing, and I'd grown up as a hockey player and around hockey. So I was very conventionally minded. But I wrote enough that I started noticing that the things I wrote and the opinions that I had didn't really help me predict anything. I wasn't right all that often. So when you have that sort of long log of what you're talking about, and you go back and go, I don't really know what I'm talking about. So I found other people who were writing and read voraciously as well. So some of the, Tyler Dello and some of the older Edmonton bloggers at the time. That's how I started getting into analytics. So I started doing my own studies, and then that moved me to Matchsticks and Gasoline, which is on the SB Nation network there. And then I got poached from there over to Flames Nation. So by that time, I'd already been writing for 5 years, I think. So I wrote a lot, and probably 90% of what I wrote to start, nobody read. So, and I'm glad, because it wasn't very good anyways. So it takes a lot of practice. But once I got to Flames Nation, I had my feet under me in terms of, I had an audience, I was pretty comfortable writing, and then I had to start becoming an editor. So I had to, brought in Pat Steinberg and other writers, and we had to start structuring, planning what we were going to write and why, and having, notes about it being cohesive. So that was helpful. And then eventually I was the chief editor of the entire network for a while. And not only did I, recruit other writers for other nation sites and kind of get them on their feet, but I had to start selling advertising, because that was the model for us. And that actually led me into digital marketing, and that became my career afterwards.
Nice, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I read those blogs, and I love them. Leading up to my one of my other questions is, what advice do you got for someone who's just starting out and wants to do what you do?
Well, the first one, as I noted, is just, you have to work a lot. You have to be committed to writing all the time, even if you're not great at it, because the only way you get better is writing a lot. And the other thing is, get passionate about a perspective or angle. So the other reason I got hooked, as I mentioned, is I got into analytics, and I was one of the first people in Calgary to do it. So when I started answering my own questions with my own research and stuff, nobody else was doing that, and that kind of gave me my own sort of angle or framework to work from.
Okay, that's great advice. With that, I'll pass it back to Lou.
So so looking at, like, obviously the Tampa Bay Lightning look like they're going to win another cup here. So that would be their second one. That would be their second win, right? And second cup win they stole one from us.
It was in.
It was in. Looking at that, because we talked a little bit about that on the Blasty cast last night. Michaela, Chris, and Noah and I. Just wanted to ask your opinion, because it's a pretty interesting question that was brought about by Noah. Like, if you look at the Flames, I mean, we had more wins than the Canadian this year in the shortened season. How do you think the Flames fare if they would have made the playoffs this year? Do you think that they could have caught lightning in a bottle like the Habs did, or are we really still quite a ways behind the rest of the pack?
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. If it was possible for Montreal, it's probably possible for Calgary as well. Probable, I don't know. I don't think they, Winnipeg wasn't a great team, so I think Calgary probably could have beat them, but Vegas, probably not. You never know because the playoffs is at least 50% luck most of the time, so you get the bounces, but it's the type of thing that I think the team is going to go for, seeing what New York and Montreal did this year. But they've been trying to do that for a couple of decades now. It works out sometimes. They've had two kind of Cinderella runs, but otherwise it's always kind of hanging around the mediocre middle class and never really becoming a contender.
Right. So here's before we take our break, I do want to warn you that we've got you set up for what's called Into the Fire, which is a game that we play, that we have our guests play. And it's 8 questions, right? And it's to test your Calgary Flames knowledge. Now, I know you know a lot. I know you know a lot, Kent. I know you do. I've been reading. So my thing is that right now the bar is set pretty low. I think I think our previous guest that the highest one is 5, right, Noah? 5? Is it 5?
That's
5
correct.
Now, if you don't win this one, I might have to take back the Godfather blogging moniker that I given you earlier. So no pressure,
Fair
bro.
enough.
But
I'm pulling up Google as we speak.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Inferno 403 podcast, the most dangerous and diverse podcast out there in Hockey Nation with Kent Wilson. And we'll be right back with Into the Fire.
Buddha.
And we are back. All right. So this Into the Fire thing. So the bar set pretty low. 5 right so far. And I believe that was the combo of another Flames Nation writer, Flashlytics, Shane. And he was a tandem with John Easthope from the Double Digit Hockey Podcast, and also Johnny's Rant, who's part of the our network, the Bravura Podcast Network. So I know that you're going to be, I think, whatever prize that we're going to give you at the end of the podcast season, I believe it's yours, man. Like, I got my money on you. So Noah Adler's going to ask you 8 questions.
Yeah. I'm going to get nothing right now because of that intro. There's not one.
Just as long as even if you tie those two jokers at 5, I think, we can have some sort of like, one game, one question. I don't know. We'll do something. We'll do something to settle it. But my money's on you. So, Mr. Noah Adler, please. Questions for Mr. Wilson, please.
Thank you, Lube. Okay, so we will get right into question number 1. Which former Flame was on the Avs Cup winning squad in 2001? Now, keep in mind with this question, he played before winning the Cup with Colorado on the Flames.
Played with the Flames before.
Yes,
Colorado.
It'd have to be before he won the Stanley Cup when he played for the Flames.
Yeah, no idea.
So the answer is Chris Steinman, who also, by the way, was on the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2004 when they beat the Flames in the final.
Did he even dress for the Avs at that point?
Not from what I can recall, I think. I don't know how many I'd have to go back and see how many games he played for Colorado that playoffs.
I was actually going to guess him too.
So we'll move on to question number 2. Who led the Flames in penalty minutes in the 1996-97 season?
Wow, that's way back then. That's my grade 11. That's when I was in. Oh, man. Simpson, Rocky Thompson. No, tell me.
Todd Simpson, 208 penalty minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
That was in that was in the era of when like Chris Simon and Christoph Oliwa were taking like 250 penalty minutes a year. Like it was ridiculous. So we'll move on now to question 3. In the 2001-02 season, Jerome McGinley led the team in goals and points. Who finished second behind Jerome in goals and points
that year? I'm just going to guess Conroy. That's probably not right.
Craig Conroy. Let me bring it up for a second here. Is absolutely correct.
Oh, there we go.
27 goals, 75 points, and finished second behind Jerome in goals and points that year.
Well, I figured it was his center, so guess.
Well, actually, I'm gonna tell a funny story here for a second here. So my father was actually playing pickleball last Sunday with Craig Bunn, and so then Bunn, so then my dad ended up telling Bunn that I was the guy that kept saying about Bunn. Oh, he was the guy who traded Jerome's number 1 center away. Well, then my dad saying, "Well, I traded to get a number 1 center to play with Jerome and Craig Conroy." So, but he's not wrong.
Having both would have been better.
Yeah. Oh my God. That would have. You have no idea.
And hanging on to Martin St. Louis would have been pretty good too.
No,
well,
I'm gonna interject here for 1 second. Chris Dingman actually did play in 41 games that season. He scored 1 goal, 1 assist for 2 points. He played in all 16 playoff games and had 4 assists.
Oh, nice. Pretty good playoffs for him then.
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
So we'll go to question 4. Who was the first Calgary Flame to win Rookie of the Year?
Ooh. That's way back then. It wasn't Makarov, was it?
That is incorrect. It was Gary Suter.
Gary Suter,
back in 1985-86.
Yeah. I just remember Makarov because they changed the rule after him because he was like 32.
Right, yeah. So we'll go to question 5. Who led the Flames in plus minus in the 94-95 season?
Was Fleury still around?
Yeah, Theo was still on that team.
I'll say him.
That was Phil Housley.
Oh, wow.
17 that year.
The second best helmet in the league ever.
So we'll move on to question 6. So Kent has only 1 correct so far.
I told you. That's lousy at trivia.
So still a little pressure here. So question number 6. What was the Flames' exact record in the regular season in the 2003-2004 season?
Yeah, I have no idea.
42, 37, and 3.
Wow,
there's people that know that off the top of their head.
I can't even remember that. I was like 11 years old. And the greatest moment of my life. But I can't even remember that.
These questions are really hard. I don't remember Flash and John getting as hard of questions as the ones that Kent are getting right now.
He's setting me up.
Well, I mean, I gotta challenge our guests, man. We have to challenge the guests. We gotta make things a little difficult here. We can't make it too easy.
I definitely should have pulled up Google for this.
So the next question is even going to be more difficult here.
Oh, wonderful.
And this is going to be including the Atlanta Flame years. Who was the first ever player selected by the Flames? And this is going back to Atlanta as well.
Yeah, it is. Was it Quinn?
No, it was Jacques Richard, second overall in 1972 to the Atlanta Flames.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, of course. Forever a Flame, that guy.
Has Lou been around for that? Like the only person in this webcam or whatever podcast. Lube, it must have been lube because everybody else was probably in their diapers.
Yeah, you shut up.
So the final question here, Kent. Who was the Flames' main backup in the 82-83 season?
I have no idea. Lemon.
Can I answer?
Yeah, go ahead, Lube.
Don Edwards, my first favorite Flames goaltender, number one.
That is correct.
There you go.
That is
Nice.
correct.
We will actually
Nice
count
ball.
that towards Kent's numbers.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
taking
We'll
that.
do that. We'll do that. So Kent
Doesn't
got
matter.
two correct. Two correct for Kent.
Kent,
Woohoo!
you and I are in last place right now. Take it,
I
man.
told you I wouldn't do well.
I mean,
Hey, listen, man. That was a lot of.
I'm in my diapers. Like I can remember this. I mean,
Sometimes I feel like you're still in your diapers, bro. But in saying that, thank you for playing the game. Hey, you know what I mean? Like it's just for
Yeah,
fun.
my
So
pleasure.
it's done.
Yep.
Now, Kent, do you have a little bit more time that you can spend with us? Because I know everybody still has a couple questions here or there for you. Could we go around the table or go around the room one more time with one more question from anybody? Michaela, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. I think maybe I'll play, I don't know, maybe a little devil's advocate here, try to turn the tables. What is your least favorite stat to track, or what is the stat that you think is the least valuable?
Can we go by like conventional stats as well?
Sure.
Goalie wins, plus minus, both useless completely. Like that, you can get the wrong information or look at a guy by looking at those. I really hate goalie wins. Probably the most useless.
One of the ones that I really dislike as well is the goals against average. I like
You're
looking
right.
at
Yeah,
I like looking at save percentage better than goals against average because I mean a goalie
That's fair,
could
yeah.
let in 6 goals, but maybe he faced like 60 shots. Like
yeah. I never look at that either. I can't remember the last time I've looked at goals against average. Useless.
Yeah, for sure. Noah?
I guess the only one for me, before we wrap up the episode here with Mr. Wilson is because everybody knows me as the Blasty King. Where are you on the conversation of Blasty, Mr. Wilson? And keep in mind,
No, I don't like it. I've never liked
you
it.
lost yourself an invite to the Blasty cast.
Sorry. Yeah, I suffered through the Young Guns. It was awful every year. It was painful. So I have, a lot of bad memories of that jersey.
So then what do you think then is the best Flames jersey of all time?
I like the classic sort of reds that are just over Jason's shoulder there. Yeah. Nope, the other one. There you go. The Kachuk. That's a good jersey.
Jason, questions?
Yeah, while we're on the topic of jerseys, I'm curious to know what's the best jersey in the NHL as opposed to just talking about the Flames. What do you like NHL wise? And you can go back as far as you want in history.
Wow, that's a good question. I've been watching hockey for so long now that I'm kind of tied back to like old, horrible retro ones. So like the worst Vancouver ones and the worst Kings ones. It's just sort of a weird nostalgia about them. I love old Whalers jerseys too. Like anytime I see stuff like that, I can't help but like it.
They're like so horrible that they're awesome.
They're good again. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Pernille.
So I looked at your Twitter a little bit. I think Duncan Keith to Edmonton sounds great, eh?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that happening. And I hope they give them a bunch of good parts for him too.
Me too. And Victor Arvidsson was another good pickup. I thought it was a solid pickup by the LA Kings.
Yeah.
I think analytically, I said he's a good player too. So what's your thoughts on that?
He's been really good for years. He did have a dip last year, and I follow some pretty good Preds bloggers, and they seem to think that he's starting to slow down from injury and stuff. So the Preds kind of wanted to do something before the expansion draft, and they kind of saw him as the most expendable piece. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of shakes out for both teams.
Yeah, I think it's a good pickup for LA. I'll pass it on to Chris.
Aside from the whole hockey topics, what other sports do you like to cover or want to cover? And if so, do you have any other favorite teams, like aside from like any Calgary teams or?
Not really. Like I'll watch any other sort of team sport, but there's nothing that I want to write about or cover at all. I mean, the only other sport I play at this point, because I'm over 40, is golf. So that's probably the other sport I watch the most of on TV, to tell you the truth.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Lou, back to you.
Kent, are you thinking about, like, are you pretty much done with it all, like with writing and covering the Flames or hockey in general?
I think so. I started up sort of as a Substack to share random thoughts, and every so often I might throw something up there if it's something I can't get out of my head. But a lot of my thoughts just go on Twitter now, because I can just put 2 or 3 tweets down, and it only takes 5 or 10 minutes, and that's it. So I have a lot of other stuff going on, so I don't have as much time or energy to devote to it anymore.
How do you feel about joining us as a co-host one of these? Maybe we'll, you can join the most diverse and dangerous and diverse podcast out there. Maybe it's an open invitation for, right now, because I think that you'd be a great fit. Smarter than all of us.
I don't know about that, but I mean, you saw my performance in the trivia contest, so as long as I'm not subjected to impossible trivia questions, I'll be fine.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Kent. It's absolutely been an honor and a pleasure for myself, and I know for the rest of
Me too.
the crew as well.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for making me anyway. When I go to Boston Pizza,
what's that?
I'm gonna say one more thing. I'm like a Flames management group. Anybody, if you want to win a Stanley Cup, please hire this guy. He knows what he's doing.
I second that.
He knows what he's doing, and I think this organization needs someone that knows analytics like this guy. So thank you.
Yeah, I paid him to say that. So.
But for me anyway, personally, thank you very much for everything that you've done. Whether it be with Matchsticks to the Flames Nation to the Athletic, I look like a hero after my beer league games, and I'm having beers with the boys, and I'm telling them, I'm just reciting everything that Kent Wilson that I read from Kent Wilson. So I'm kind of a Chinese hockey superhero in my parts because of you. So thank you very much. But before we go, we do have something I want to shout out a young man out in Ontario right now. He's been diagnosed 4 months ago with leukemia. His name is Harrison, and his dad, Daniel Knapp, reached out to me today, and we were just small chatting about my experience. As many know, that I lost my daughter to leukemia 7 years ago. I told them that we would shout them out. The Infernal 403 and Kent Wilson would give a shout out to little Harrison, because we know that he is a warrior and he will be watching. So Harrison, you're going to do great. You're going to do great. You are a warrior, and you're going to be. Our thoughts and prayers are with you, young man. And Daniel and your partner, man. Reach out to any of us anytime if you ever need anything, and we will try to get you that Johnny Gaudreau jersey. I think it's going to happen. So thank you very much. And
that's right. Yeah. Stay strong, Harrison. Yeah, we're all praying for you, man.
From the Inferno 403, Mr. Kent Wilson, this is episode 4. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 4 of the Inferno 403 podcast. We are so honored today.
Loop, start over there. You said episode.
What? What did you say?
You said episode.
I did? Oh, geez.
Yeah. You definitely
ESL.
did. I caught that one.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 4 of the Inferno. What the heck is going on with my mouth today? Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. I'm nervous. Kent's got me nervous.
Lube, you're muted.
There we go.
You're still muted.
Sorry, guys. Thank God we're editing this, eh? AJ,
There
thanks.
we go.